There's a fundamental shift happening in the global economy right now. Think of it like an invisible earthquake, and it's being driven by a new kind of artificial intelligence. Now, this isn't something you're going to see debated in the headlines or, discussed around most dinner tables, but trust me, its tremors are already being felt. So, what if I told you that an invisible force is already out there, reshaping our world's economy? What if the very rules of how we do business, how we work, and how countries get wealthy were being rewritten by these autonomous systems that are just operating beneath the surface? And look, this isn't some hypothetical from a sci-fi novel. It's the reality we are unpacking today. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get into what this invisible agent economy actually is. Then, we'll look at who's winning and who's losing in this new world. After that, we'll tackle the big one, the great job churn. And finally, we'll wrap up with a practical career survival guide. Sound good? All right, let's dive in. All right, part one, the invisible agent economy. To really get what's going on, we first need to understand what's actually causing this quake. And just to be clear, we're talking about something way, way more powerful than the chatbots you might have played around with. So, at the heart of this whole thing are what we call latent AI agents. The best way to think about them isn't as tools you command, but more like autonomous employees. Seriously, they can reason on their own, they can take action across all sorts of different software systems, and they can complete really complex tasks without a human looking over their shoulder. They are, for all intents and purposes, becoming economic players in their own right. And this scale here, it's just staggering. Look at this number. Projections show these agents adding somewhere between 2.6 and 4.4 trillion dollars to the global economy. And that's not a one-time thing, that's annually by 2030. So this isn't some little niche tech trend, right? This is a tidal wave of economic value. But where does that value actually come from? This is where it gets really fascinating, because this is where we see the hidden mechanics of this new economy. Take the unreliability tax, for example. That's basically the extra cost companies have to pay for insurance or backup systems just to make sure these AI agents don't make a huge, catastrophic mistake. Then you've got agent-to-agent negotiation. That's literally AIs setting prices with other AIs in real time. And the market for oracles? That's for specialized AIs that are trusted to provide verified real-world data to other agents. These are the new rules, the new risks, and honestly, the new power brokers of this whole agentic economy. Okay, so on to part two. Now, this economic earthquake, just like any huge shift, isn't affecting everyone the same way, not even close. In fact, it's creating this really deep and rapidly growing divide across the entire globe. And the fault lines are becoming crystal clear. On one side, you've got the winners, nations with strong digital infrastructure and just tons of private investment to build and deploy these agents. But on the other side, you have the losers, countries whose entire economic models, maybe built on cheap labor or service exports, are now under direct threat. And wow, this chart really just says it all, doesn't it? Take a look. Recent private AI investment in the US is a whopping $67.2 billion. Compare that to China at $7.8 billion. That is a massive gap. And that funding difference is probably the biggest indicator of who is set up to grab the lion's share of that multi-trillion-dollar prize we were just talking about. So what does this all boil down to? Well, it means the winner's circle is pretty small. You've got the US leading the charge with investment, Singapore with its incredible AI readiness, and China with its just sheer scale of patents and government-backed infrastructure. But on the flip side, low-income nations, they just don't have the foundation to even get in the game. Service-heavy economies like the UK are facing huge disruptions to their white-collar workforce. And the euro area, well, it seems to be getting slowed down by its own regulations. Okay, let's bring this down from the global scale for a second. Let's talk about the human impact. Because this huge economic story has a very personal side to it. And that's the big question. What does all this mean for our jobs? And yeah, the first number you see is pretty jarring. The World Economic Forum estimates that AI is going to replace 85 million jobs globally, and not in some far-off future, but by the end of 2026. That is right around the corner. Now, this impact isn't spread out evenly. It's really concentrated in specific areas, basically any role that's defined by routine. We're talking about up to 65% of retail jobs, maybe half of all entry-level white-collar jobs, millions of manufacturing jobs in the US alone, and something like 80% of all customer support. All of these are super vulnerable to being automated by these new agents. But hang on, because displacement is not the whole story. This is where we get into something economists call the churn. Check this out. While forecasts show about 92 million jobs being displaced by 2026, they also predict that 170 million new roles will be created by 2030. So, the net result? A gain of 78 million jobs. The real challenge here isn't a lack of work. It's that the very definition of what work is being totally transformed. Which brings us to part 4, and really the most important question of all. When you're facing this massive churn, how do you adapt? How do you make sure your career is built on new, solid ground and not on, shifting sand? Well, the future-proof roles seem to fall into 4 main buckets. First up, anything with high-touch human services. Think healthcare, education, things that require real empathy. Second, skilled trades and physical labor. And AI isn't fixing your plumbing anytime soon. Third, there are these totally new agent-first jobs popping up like AI orchestrators who manage teams of agents. And finally, you have the high-value creative and strategic fields, advisors, artisans, people whose work is about judgment, not just data. So what does this mean for you? Your personal survival guide really comes down to 3 key pillars. Number 1, AI literacy. You've got to learn to use these agents as your co-pilot, not your competitor. Number 2, emotional intelligence, or EQ. You have to master things like negotiation, mentorship, empathy. Those human skills are becoming incredibly valuable. And number 3, adaptability. Just being willing to pivot and learn as the tech changes might just be the single most important career skill you can have from now on. And that really leaves us with one final critical question that I want you to ask yourself. When you think about your own job, your own career, is it defined by predictable, repeatable routines that an AI agent could eventually learn? Or is it defined by uniquely human stuff, connection, creativity, judgment? Because the answer to that question might very well determine your place in this new agentic economy. Hey, if you enjoyed this explainer and got some value out of it, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us keep making these deep dives into the topics that are shaping our world. Thanks so much for watching.